The morning air was heavy with a wet chill that clung to the streets, curling around sidewalks like breath from an unseen mouth. Inside the downtown branch of Stonemere National Bank, fluorescent lights buzzed with indifferent constancy while polished floors reflected the impatient shuffle of dress shoes and designer heels. In a far corner, barely noticed, stood Miss Odette Lamon, an elderly woman in her late 70s, her body slightly stooped by time but her eyes alert and searching. Her fingers trembled slightly, not with fear, but from the stiffness of old joints, as she carefully unzipped her weather-worn purse and pulled out a folded government check. She waited quietly behind the red velvet rope, ignored by passing staff and occasionally brushed by someone too busy to say sorry. The line inched forward until finally she was face to face with the young teller, a woman in her 20s with manicured nails and earbuds discreetly tucked beneath her sleek hair. The teller looked up, took one glance at the check, and tilted her head with exaggerated confusion. "This isn't real," the teller said flatly, eyeing Odette like she had just dropped a crumpled coupon at a luxury store. "These kinds of government checks are usually flagged. Do you even have an account with us?" The words weren't shouted, but they pierced the quiet of the lobby, making nearby customers turn subtly, curiosity piqued. Odette's voice was soft but steady. She explained she'd held an account here for over 3 decades. Her pension was directly deposited every month. The teller raised an eyebrow, barely listening. With a passive-aggressive smile, she flagged down the branch manager, a man named Vincent Hale, whose blazer looked tailored and whose smile never touched his eyes. He approached with the casual entitlement of someone accustomed to not being questioned. He didn't look at Odette directly at first, only at the check. "We've had issues with fraud lately," he said. "Best for you to try a community branch. This location handles high-volume clients." The coded language hung in the air like smog. Odette didn't flinch, but her grip tightened on her cane. "I just want to deposit what's mine," she said softly. "I can wait while you verify it." Hale's lips curled into something faintly amused, something almost rehearsed. "This line isn't for people like you, ma'am. Perhaps you didn't see the signage?" Behind them, a young black intern named Arias sat frozen, pretending to look at her screen. Her heart pounded with rage she couldn't express. Across the room, the security guard shifted but remained silent. There was no raised voice, no incident that could go viral, only quiet humiliation, sharp and suffocating. When Odette asked once more to see someone else, Hale smirked and said, "I am someone else." A silence followed that seemed to stretch the air tight. Then came the noise outside an engine, subtle but powerful. A black government vehicle pulled up to the curb. The door opened and out stepped a tall figure, dressed plainly but with unmistakable bearing. Ibrahim Traoré walked into the bank. Like gravity had changed. Heads turned before anyone even recognized him. His presence wasn't loud, it was stillness that disrupted every pretense in the room. Without looking around, he walked directly toward Odette. The manager's face went pale. The teller stepped back. Traoré said nothing at first. He simply observed the scene with slow precision, taking in the check, the look on Odette's face, and the discomfort ricocheting off every polished surface. Then quietly to Hale, he asked, "Did you tell this woman she wasn't worth your time?" Hale stammered something about protocols, policies, procedures. Traoré didn't interrupt. He let the man unravel himself. Then, looking straight into his eyes, he said, "You don't deserve this office. She built this city while you were still learning to lie." Nobody moved, not even the security guard. The room fell into a breathless pause, but for Odette, the moment had not ended, it had merely shifted. She didn't ask who he was. She didn't need to. She recognized the integrity behind his quiet. Traoré turned to her gently. "Would you allow me to walk you to a proper seat?" She nodded, and as they stepped away, the staff instinctively parted. Hale stood rigid, caught in his own unraveling. What followed was not a storm but an awakening, told not through shouting matches or lawsuits, but through quiet action and exposure. That evening, the incident was mentioned during a local radio show. A listener uploaded a blurry photo of the encounter to social media with the caption, "They disrespected someone's grandmother today." Then Ibrahim walked in like God pressed pause. The post was shared over 600,000 times. Hashtags appeared. Hashtag Odette deserves better, hashtag banking while black dot. But beneath the surface of outrage lived something older, something Odette herself had carried for decades. Born in 1946, Odette had marched with organizers in her youth, taught mathematics, in an underfunded district and opened her first savings account in the very same bank branch when it was housed in a smaller building. Her late husband, Emile, had been denied a mortgage loan 3 times despite having the same income as white applicants. When they finally bought a home, it was through a private seller who charged them 9% interest. Still, they built a life. They never missed a payment, but the bank never treated them as clients, only as warnings. Over the years, she had noticed the changes: fewer black tellers, longer wait times, new account rules that subtly excluded seniors. She had spoken up, once sent a letter to headquarters after a teller discarded her form without reading it. No reply. She had let it go. Like so many things. The next day, Traoré returned not with cameras but with an audit team. Quiet men and women with lanyards began requesting internal reports, transaction logs, video files, emails. Employees panicked. Hale pretended to welcome them. Aria, the intern, was called in for questioning. She trembled, expecting the worst, until Traoré himself stepped in. "I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to find the truth. Tell me what you saw." And so she did. In hushed tones, she revealed Hale's soft policy for problematic clients, the internal chats that mocked Odette's repeated visits, the deliberate delays on processing pension-related checks. She handed over a USB drive she had copied for her own protection. It held everything. The bank's internal communications were damning. One message read, "Flag anyone with social benefits. Low-return clients slow the floor. Be subtle, but effective." Another joked, "If they can't use mobile banking, they're not the future." The pattern was systemic. This wasn't one employee's prejudice, it was a culture carefully curated over years. Word spread. Other elderly clients stepped forward. A retired school principal, a former bus driver, a widow who had been charged mystery fees for a decade. Odette's story became a beacon. Reporters started digging. The bank's record on minority lending was exposed: disproportionate rejections, delayed fund releases, vague policies that discouraged black business owners. The outrage grew not because of what had been shouted, but because of what had been allowed in silence. The climax approached not with a riot, but with the hearing a public oversight session broadcast on national television. The bank's CEO was summoned. Vincent Hale, too. The backdrop was sterile: beige walls, white folders, microphones that magnified every breath. But the drama lay in the restraint. Odette sat quietly at the table, Ibrahim beside her. Cameras zoomed in on their faces. A senator opened the proceedings. "We are here to understand why, in 2025, elderly citizens are still facing discriminatory barriers at national banks. We are here to understand what happened to Miss Odette Lamon and what it reveals about the system." Hale was called first. He arrived sweating, his collar too tight. He spoke in legal phrases: policies, regional variances, client misunderstandings. Then it was Odette's turn. She didn't read from paper. Her voice was soft, like a lullaby that carried weight. "This isn't about one check. It's about what people assume when they see a black woman with a question. They see complication, not dignity." The room held its breath. Then came Ibrahim. He addressed the panel with facts, screenshots, policy failures, demographics. But then he spoke, without notes. "We are judged by how we treat the people who wait quietly in our institutions, those who come with trust and are met with suspicion." Odette did not ask for special treatment. She asked for the same as anyone else. She was denied. That is, racism. Dressed in professionalism, wearing a tie, the CEO, visibly sweating, attempted to spin a narrative about miscommunication. Traoré cut in. "When your system punishes silence and rewards arrogance, you do not have miscommunication. You have rot." Gasps, silence, then applause. Over the next weeks, reforms were announced. Hale resigned. Headquarters issued an apology. But Odette didn't care for speeches. She cared when her check cleared instantly the next time she walked in. She cared when neighbors stopped her to say thank you. She cared when the teller who once humiliated her stood and apologized, not publicly, but in private, eyes lowered, voice real. Hale's fall was quiet. No handcuffs, just a slow erasure. His name disappeared from LinkedIn. He applied for jobs in smaller banks, was turned down. His daughter stopped answering his texts. The final blow came when he walked into a CAF and saw Odette's image framed on the wall with the words, "She waited." And she was seen, Traoré never mentioned the incident again publicly, but he returned once on a rainy Thursday and sat with Odette over tea. They said little, but the silence was full of memory, of justice, of dignity reclaimed. And that was enough.